I, if you want to keep going with this subject, I mean, I've got something lined up. If you does anyone seen the three body problem on
I
Netflix?
saw the Chinese
I
version of it.
read
I
I
haven't
read
seen the
half of it.
Netflix one. I've read the book. I've
Okay,
seen the Chinese
I read the
version
first
of
book.
the show, but I haven't seen the Netflix one.
I've heard that some people like the Chinese version, other people like the Netflix version. And do you guys know what happens in it, at least initially, like the
No,
premise?
I lost the book somewhere in
Yeah.
Spain, but I
Okay.
don't know. Like
Well, I don't want to spoil it
you
for
can,
you, but there's a
no, no,
there's
no,
a
it's all
there's a
good.
cracker of a there's like a few minute cracker of anything that's like it just goes through
Wow.
AGI and everything. It's
Brutal.
amazing.
What's
Yeah,
it
I
called
was
again? The electron shooter thing, hadron
SOFON.
collider thing. What is it called?
They're calling it a SOFON.
No,
Oh,
the
the Large
the
Hadron
thing in
Collider
Europe that's
Particle Accelerator.
yeah, they have one in Melbourne. Yeah, they have one in Melbourne as well. I had a friend who worked with them, and they're amazing, right? Because you can
Simulate the
you shoot stuff at each other basically.
yeah, you simulate the space and time just moments before after the Big Bang, and you can see whatever other particles exist for like nanoseconds, and they hit the material whatever around the collision point, and they go, oh, there's one, there's one, there's one, there's one. What are they? Where are they on the standard model? I don't know. It's just
Yeah. But, I mean, they do other stuff to work out the properties of different materials as well. So you need I don't know why, but from memory, you need to smash stuff together, and then when they break apart, you can see how different materials work,
oh
basically.
wow.
And from memory in the books, the scientists in it were working on material science, right?
Oh, and that's where
And material
the
science,
recent breakthrough with GNOME, the GNOME project, 3 million new configurations. That's crazy. Surely there's going to be
I haven't
one
seen
where
that. What's
you,
that?
we, well, they got an AI to go find out how many configurations of compounds you can come up with that are stable, and it came back. Oh, here you go. Here's another 3 million. And we're like, that would have taken us 800,000 years at the present rate of discovery. Thanks.
Yeah. Well, they're building a new
That's
super collider that's
fascinating.
100 kilometers in diameter.
What hundredth? You got to get closer, Brendan. Can't hear you.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry.
Oh, God, sorry. They're building a new super collider that's 100 kilometers in diameter.
I heard
Yeah.
that they want it bigger. Why don't they just build it on the moon? I know that's silly because it's very hard to build stuff on the moon, but moon would be a perfect place. You just run the collider around the circumference of the moon.
It'd be
That'd be
awesome.
pretty cool, man.
That'll be cool. And
So, so I feel like the significance of the video clip was that the aliens have worked out a way where they could disrupt humanity's ability to use hadron colliders and get accurate research,
so that
which,
our
from my
technology,
understanding, relates to material science. So they could
right?
basically slow down material science development,
Yeah.
which is things like
Without
graphene and
spoiling the
conductivity.
series, without spoiling the series too much, yeah, there's a lot of scientists in the books or the series. We're getting very, very upset because basically they all discovered that science was effectively dead. And they started
Yeah, because
committing suicide.
their particle accelerators were returning rubbish data. You could see their sophons, the alien sophons, were stuffing around with the collisions. But just so that there's context, so the three-body problem was they are in a trinary star system, and apparently a trinary star system you can't predict the movement of the orbits, and so their civilization keeps on getting KO'd every so often. So they've gotten to this point, and their civilization is basically doomed. But just by chance, they found the Earth in a stable, single star system, and 4 light years away. And so, at 1% the speed of light, they'll be here in 400 years. But the problem is, even though we're not as advanced as they are, because of the stability of our system, and we are right at the explosive part of the curve, by the time they reach us, we would just be light years ahead of them. So they sent these sophons to stop us from advancing. That's all I know so far.
So
Gripping,
the singularity
gripping
is
stuff.
not here anymore.
Singularities being
So
stopped
they
by
took away reality.
singularities, by alien
right.
singularities.
Yeah, that's right.
They took away the universal truth of science.
That's right.
Yeah.
right.
Oh, there's some crazy things. Have you seen the nanostring? Was there nanostrings in the book? Probably not.
Yeah.
There
Yeah,
was?
there was.
Oh, wow. That was.
But don't spoil.
I'm
don't
not going to
for
spoil
people.
anything.
No.
No way.
No,
That's
the
so
book.
fascinating.
The book is really good because it's a lot of there's a lot of philosophy in the book as well, which is really really good. It's really really powerful. So yeah, it's very very good. It's a good series. Yeah.
The thing I noticed about it, I quite liked its take on the Cultural Revolution. Like it really delved into that at the beginning of the book, like
Oh,
just
with the
explaining
Chinese.
ideal.
Yeah, down with the old world and up and with the new world. Yeah.
Yeah, but just
Crazy.
also just explaining like kind of dogma ideology, the kind of impacts it can have. Um, but I think the other thing I noticed about it is like scientists are treated like they have a much higher status in China than they do like in the West. That's just obvious. Like scientists just seem to be treated better. They live in like nice houses. They've got, you know what I mean? Like good life, all that
But they
stuff.
tell too much truth, they get killed.
Yeah.
Yeah, in the West, there's the trope. It's a Hollywood trope. For every natural disaster in a movie, there's always the scientist begging them to do something just before
And being
it happens.
ignored.
And
getting
being
ignored.
ignored because yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
exactly.
Oh,
Yeah.
dear.
If anyone hasn't seen it, the movie
Fascinating.
Don't Look Up.
Oh yeah, Don't Look Up is amazing. Oh yes,
Yeah, I liked it.
just the, because you see it and you go, this is funny, but it's pretty much how it's gonna. You can see it just happening.
Satire.
Yeah. It's so fat because I think I like in defense of the West, right? In defense. I think what's interesting is I would say, and was without personal knowledge, right? But it would seem like in China the scientists are well respected. And definitely in the West the scientists are not as well respected. But a mad scientist is allowed in the West, and a mad scientist, let's say Jack Ma, probably not allowed in China,
Yeah.
right? And
But he
I
doesn't.
think you get what I mean. Like I think like mad scientists are very important, as well as professional scientists, because usually a mad scientist is capable of saying truth that the professional scientists maybe won't. And I think that's like there's something fascinating about that. And the free body problem is because the point of the free body problem is there's these planets and they're circling the planets and they can't work out because there's free bodies mathematically or statistically
It's impossible.
when those planets will destroy. Yeah, they can't actually work it out, right? There's no certainty. There's no, well, it's definitely going to destroy
It's
all
like
of us at
pi.
this point.
It's like
right?
pi, and then that's it. It's over because you've hit pi too many times. You can't work out the errors. Just exponentially obliterate your predictions.
Astronomical.
Yeah. So,
Yeah, and it's fascinating. They understand that because that's the death of their society, and it is the thing they've spent millennia working out. So they understand how to destroy a society is to give them the same problem. Right?
that explains
That's
the
the point.
joke. That explains the. Oh. So
Your
yeah.
voice is
What's
like
the
that
joke? What's the joke?
moment.
No, I don't want to. Like, have you seen the joke? Have you heard the joke? I don't want to spoil it. Well, it's not really a spoiler because they're going to say
I'm
the
not
joke.
gonna watch it or read it.
All right.
So
Well, the joke is
I want
Einstein
to watch
gets
it.
to heaven.
But tell me.
Einstein gets to heaven, and he finally meets God, and he's always wanted to play the violin, and then he sees this golden violin, and he's like, "All right, yeah, I'm going to just play it." And then just as he's about to pick it up, one of the angels comes up. He goes, "What are you doing?" He says, "I love to play violin. I want to play the violin." He goes, "No, God doesn't like anyone playing the violin. God likes the saxophone." And so Einstein didn't want to ruffle anyone's feathers, so he just left the violin. And then he hears the saxophone playing upstairs. God's playing the saxophone. And eventually it gets to him and he goes up to the violin. He says, look, I'm going to play the violin and God's going to listen. He's going to like it. So he starts playing the violin with the saxophone. And he thinks he's doing well. And then the saxophone stops. And in comes God. It bursts in. And he kicks Einstein in the balls and smashes his violin. And as he's crawling there and like holding his, manhood or whatever you call it up in heaven, and the angel comes up to him and he goes, see, I told you. What was the punchline? Don't ever play with God. And I didn't get that. I just got the surface level. But then I know who the God is. God is the aliens, because we call them my Lord. And Einstein is us, the human race. The saxophone is, I guess, their technology, and the violin is our technology. Oh, and we're playing the certain song, and the song is We Take the A Train. That's the song. And I thought the first time I heard that joke was Einstein came before the song Take the A Train. But anyway, he was playing Take the A Train. If you look up the lyrics, it's the fastest train that you can take through New York. So it goes with the theme accelerate, accelerate, accelerate. We have to play the violin as fast as we can, because God doesn't want us to play with him. But in the context of the three-body problem, that's just the whole point. It's like the aliens are coming, and we have to learn how to play the violin and level up. Yeah, I think I screwed that up. But anyway,
Dude, that was really good. That was really good. That was like I really enjoyed that.
It kind of relates to Tower. That's
That
the
was like-
Tower of Babel myth, right?
That was majestic. That was actually majestic. I like it.
We're building a
10
tower
out of
into
10.
heaven.
Like,
God gets
I
unhappy.
enjoyed that immensely. Jesus.
yes.
But it has to be from our own perspective, because we can't play the saxophone. We have to play the we have to be a really fucking good at violin.
Ah, that's right. And you also said
Which song? We're talking about songs.
Oh, Take the
Whose
A
song
Train.
wins?
Take the A train.
Yeah.
It's a good song.
Actually, let me
I
see.
like Louis Armstrong.
Better be.
Take
Damn it,
the
better
A
be.
train, the A train, you'll find. I can't remember.
That was a really, really, really good analogy in joke. Like, it's fucking. Yeah, I enjoyed that. That's good.
I think that it's like the Tower of Babel. It's Tower of Babel story is why do we have different languages? And so the story is men founded a city somewhere in Iraq probably, and they started building a tower into heaven, the Tower of Babel. And the gods or God got unhappy about it because he thought, they're going to get into heaven. So then he confused all the languages.
And then we have Babelfish. Yes.
Yeah, exactly. To stop people getting into heaven because they're building the tower, a tower to find them.
Was Babelfish
Or them.
Was
Right.
Babelfish
Shittier
from
languages.
Hitchhikers? Was Babelfish from Hitchhikers?
Yeah,
It's a
hitchhikers.
fish that you just put in your.
Babelfish, yep.
It's
Babelfish.
just like they're trying to get in heaven, as they're trying to be like gods, right? So by putting the languages, they basically not only smash the tower, they smash the
No,
the tower.
in the Bible, no. So becoming like God was when we ate from the tree of knowledge of good and evil. That was becoming like us. Because if you read that, it's quite interesting. If you actually read the Old Testament, we've only got one God, but if you actually read it, it's talking about multiple gods. It's like gods having a chat together. Like they will become like us. Like who's he talking to? But that was
a bit
the
of
tree of knowledge of good and evil.
Yeah, but back
And
then,
then,
back then we had more than one god. We had heaps of gods back then.
Yeah.
Well, not in the monotheistic faith.
No, but they,
No,
but
we
they,
had.
but they still did
But
in their
but
monotheistic.
the second commandment was we couldn't put any of our other gods before the Christian Judeo God. That's the second commandment. I am the Lord your God, which you
Thou
will
shalt not have any
any
gods
other
before
gods
me.
before me.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's only it became a
Very
later
specific.
it became a
That's
later
interesting.
later religious thing that there is only one
There's only
God,
one. Yeah,
Monotheism,
you're right.
yeah.
right? But the Bible actually refers to
Damn.
multiple gods in many places. It's just the fact that most Christians forget about that because they're not.
I
They
like
were
the original
poor.
flood
They were
story though.
poor.
Like we get told the flood happened. Like if you read the Bible, it's like flood happened because man was being sinful and doing all this bad stuff, and so God decided like he'd get rid of his creation because it was too bad and sinful. And like, but then he saved this one guy because like he was a good guy. You read like so it's actually based on an earlier myth, right, from like the from the Sumerians, I think, and it was that like the humans were getting too populous and were making too much noise. So one of the gods couldn't sleep. So he's like, fuck this. Like, damn racket down there. Like, let's just kill them all. Like
Wow.
they had to do like they just had to do a bit of a PR cleanup on God, right? Like he was just a bit of a badass, like murdering people and exterminating. So let's put a moral kind of spin on it. They were doing it for their own good because they were bad. Like where have I heard that before? Actually, like yeah,
Yeah.
Well, like it's Neuralink. I think about language, Neuralink and BCI and all this stuff, right?
This
Would like
is
if
the
I
age of it.
communicated directly to you guys
Would you
through
need
like
language?
a Neuralink setup,
but at the moment it's only
would
out,
that be
right?
like
You can only,
would I be
you
at
can-
would I be at the top of the Tower of Babel at that point, or would
This-
Elon Musk
yeah.
become my god?
Like if
No,
you feel
because
like
you
sorry.
you can't integrate it in, right? You can only push it out. So even if you got Neuralink in there, it's not like you can Neuralink to
You can do
Neuralink.
right.
Yeah, you can write.
What
That's
I'm-
the whole point
You
about
Yeah,
can-
you
Neuralink.
can write,
You
but
can do
you can
write
write
and
right
read.
now.
No, read and write into your brain.
So depending
That's
on
the whole point. It's not read
depending on
only.
how pervasive this eventually gets,
Yeah.
the big acid test would be if you're feeling happy, could I tell you're feeling happy even if you don't tell me? Like could I feel what you're feeling? And if that's the case, could you be if you have a language infrastructure that's completely different to mine, let's say you speak Chinese, I speak Indian, would I still be able to understand you if you're saying what you're saying in Chinese and I can't understand your infrastructure, but I still get the message through the feeling?
But is Neuralink, I mean, yes, I think we're going to feel things, right? Like you'll be able to feel your bank balance or your bank balance. Like if
Yeah.
you're spending too much, you'll get this kind of stabby feeling like,
Yeah,
ooh,
just
I
like-
better like
just like-
ease off on like,
When I said, like if I have a conversation with someone, I forget which language I spoke to them in, but I remember what I meant. I remember the meaning, but I forget how I said it.
I think it's different. Yeah, I agree.
but is Neuralink actually,
Is the language and the symbols the same thing?
The symbolism.
I'm not
Yeah, I
sure of that.
remember the
I'm not sure about
symbolism, but not the literal language that was used. So if someone's speaking
Yeah.
in language A and I only know language B, will I still know what they're saying through the symbolism? Maybe the symbolism carries through.
There may be an
so are they
interpretation.
unidirectional Neuralink?
Yes, the Neuralink is bidirectional.
Yeah.
Bidirectional.
Bidirectional.
Read and write.
And
So
there's
like, how
research.
what do the people see in their heads?
Yeah.
Like, so the people who have the plugins, like,
Well, there's only
what
one
do they
person that we
see?
know's got a plug-in at the moment, right?
Yeah, that
the rest
dude.
of them have been monkeys. It's only been the first guy. So I don't.
You
think
can move
he's
a
talked
mouse
about it.
cursor. Yeah.
Yeah, he moves
Yeah,
around
but
that-
what can he see?
But
Like, if it's
the-
bidirectional.
Yeah.
It's relatively new. But like what they've done in MRI, there's an MRI study where they've got two people in two different locations, and they stimulate part of their brain at the same time to get them to communicate. Right. That is research that's happening, right? And so like
You share a part
I
of
think
your
like
brain.
that's
Yeah.
well, they're trying to
It's
work on what part of
effectively
the
sharing
brain
a part
to
of the
use.
brain with someone else.
Exactly
Yeah,
right. So like we have to
individuality, I would think.
Oh, I have no idea.
well we speak
just-
to communicate. It's pretty slow. It's gonna be a lot faster going brain to brain. But then the question is like, okay, who sets up the operating system of how the brain to brain communication works? So like if I had a brain of that,
Who writes
and
the
I'm a brain of
antivirus
that,
software?
and I
That's
exactly.
right.
And
So,
more
yeah,
importantly,
that's exactly
you're
right.
going to get like,
go back.
think about how now you talk about people getting radicalized, or he was hanging out with the wrong people, or he was reading all this Islamic State, I don't know, stuff
He was
online
hanging.
or
He was
Hitler Youth or
linked
whatever,
up with
right?
the wrong people. He neuralinked
Yeah,
with the wrong
he was
people.
plugged into the wrong people.
Downloaded the wrong
it, dude.
memories. Like, wow,
Man.
Well, it's
this is a brave new
it's
world.
wait, what is so you got Descartes. Descartes, I think therefore I am, but it's not I think therefore I am anymore. It's like we're talking about God. If I had a direct relationship to God and He made the universe because I have direct relationships, and
Descartes out of
it's not
date now.
genetic God anymore. It's Elon Musk.
Yeah, but
It's Elon
Descartes,
Musk.
Descartes are out of date
He's
now
God.
anyway because language models think, and they're not. It's not I think, therefore I am anymore. It hasn't been like that for a while.
But we don't know that. All we know is that we think, and we have to make every axiomatic decision we make out of that, like a brain in a vat.
But then all of us are deterministic, just like the machines. So we're just
Maybe I don't know.
We're just-
I will bet.
we're just atoms following the chemistry.
Well, no, but then you get into the other, you get into that other problem. What is it? Like, Pete was trying to explain it to me. Some other dude was trying to explain it to me, whereby,
Is it wave? Yeah.
what's it called? Irreduction or something?
Irreducibility.
Irreducibility. So in other words,
That's why we're called
like-
individuals.
yeah, like it's can things, even if something is deterministic, it may be irreducible. There may be irreducibility in terms of, while it may be a deterministic play out, you may not be able to predict the outcome because the computation needs to occur in order for that outcome to be reached, right? Like
Yeah, like the three-body problem. Yes. It's
yeah,
too
yes.
hard to. It's too hard to calculate. Like
You have to run the computation to get to the answer, even though because it's an emergent, it's an emergent behavior. Even if it is a deterministic behavior, it's still an emergent property. It's that guy Stephen Wolfram, right, with his
yeah, Rulliard, yeah.
his computational irreducibility, right?
Yeah,
So
it means
you can
cannot,
say there's some simple
no
rules,
shortcut.
but
Yeah,
well, we don't know, but
it's like Pythagoras. A squared b squared. You can work out the hypotenuse by shortcut.
Yeah.
But is there a shortcut for everything? No, that's the irreducibility thing. So it's like
Yeah,
also like
yeah.
an NPN problem. You have, I think I used the summaries. So I asked for a summary from Brendan and a summary from Peter. They gave me like 3 paragraphs of summary of what they did. I chucked it to GPT. I said, summarize this in 3 sentences. It took 5 seconds and it summarized them. That would have been really hard for me to do and taken a long time, but it did it real quick, and it took me only 5 seconds to confirm it did it it did the right thing. So I think it's a good NPN. But for irreducibility, then there's no way you can get a shortcut to the answer unless you just got to do the calculations.
yeah, I guess that's what
Maybe
I was getting
quantum.
at. Like, even if it turns out that we're deterministic, so even if you're shown the scene before where from that sci-fi series where the lady is seeing
Oh,
her
yeah,
own
yeah,
words
yeah,
on
yeah.
the screen, right?
Yeah.
So even if you can get to the point where what you can say is determined, like if you have the set of the model, like to get overall behavior or how things will play out, it may still require the playing out of the system.
Yeah,
Like,
because
I don't know.
once the system gets to a certain level of complexity, you can't keep track of it. And then you change one thing, you get the butterfly effect, and it just changes everything.
That's the problem with people, isn't it, though?
Systems.
Because people are complex. You may have a certain behavior,
You can simplify them.
but today you're hungry, right? And because
Yeah.
you're hungry, your behaviour's changed, right? Or you're worried about something or something like that. So your normal predictive behaviour is now unpredictable because of a state, right? And unless you can measure the state, you can't measure the behaviour.
That's one of the things they're saying about AIs can get so advanced and they have so much data on us and our behaviors that they could, just by looking at, this is the problem in China at the moment, they could just look at you in a monitor and they could tell if you're lying, they could tell if you're telling the truth. And it is really scary, just the amount of data they have on their own citizens.
Yeah, but how accurate is that, right? So we talk about statistics,
It's
right?
very
So-
accurate.
No, but It is, but it's not infallible, right? So you can have a lot of. Well, the problem is this is one of the dangers of trusting machines in the first place, right? Is like for stuff. It's like, okay, we use these machines and they become a better facsimile of something, right? And we become to trust them, right? At what level do we say that they're 99% trustable? There's also the 1% that you can't trust it, right? And the problem with people is they go 99%, that means pretty much perfect. So when the machines make an error,
Mixed
right,
experts build consensus.
It's very hard to convince ordinary public where that a machine has made a mistake because people trust them. And so when the machine has error,
Not every.
Get
how
5
do you
machines
prove
to
that?
do it. Get 5 machines to do it and
but-
vote.
No, but that's what you think about it, right? But I'm talking about the average person.
Okay,
When they they trust these machines. This has happened in court cases before when they have expert witnesses or whatever it is, when they're trusting piece of technology.
Yep.
They go, this technology said you did this.
Yes, Michael, what did you want to say?
Yeah.
I think think about I think about it from a RAG perspective, you know. So I've got I'm like got this AI thing. I'm asking a question, right, and then it can do a couple of things. So one thing, it could give me back a high probability answer, right, really probable, right, and then I can double check that against like some information, or I could double check it against like certain knowns, right. But if I just go to question, it can answer the question, then it does some computation, and it can give me back a probability. Or it could give me back a true or false statement, right? Or it could give me back a mixture of either one. So maybe it might be like, you know, like, is today, I don't know, is it Monday? And it can be like true or false. It's like, true, it is Monday, right? Or it could be like, what do you think the probability of Donald Trump being reelected or something like that would be? And it would give me back like a probability or something like that. I mean, that's one part of it. So I think there are certain things that are like, these things can be like always accurate. We could use it for
Maybe
that.
we need to
But I think there's
teach-
another part to this.
Maybe we need to teach computers like how we talk. Like, think about it in a corporate meeting. I'll always be saying, I think, or it's likely. Like we in the way we talk, we communicate, especially if it matters. We communicate levels of probability in
Through
how we
speech,
talk.
yes.
Like in speech.
To a
So you're
degree,
never-
sometimes.
Well, you generally what you learn is that you should have more probability in what you say. So maybe you start working and you're like, yeah, we can get that done by tomorrow, or yeah, it's like this, and then you find out it's not like that, and you can't get it done, and then you learn to have a bit more variability. You start to have a bit more fault tolerance in what you say.
Have
Like-
you
And I agree, but there's deductive reasoning, which is like true or false, Boolean statements, if statements.
let
Then
me
there's and statements,
and
like
or
different
X
types of
or
logic.
can I bring in an AI?
Yeah.
We'll see how good they are. Okay. Let's see. Hopefully it's not working. Hello there, buddy. Can you hear me?
Ooh, I hear you loud and clear. Sounds like there might be a few kinks to work out, huh? No worries. We'll get this empathic voice interface humming in no time. In the meantime, I am all ears if you want to chat. What's on your mind, pal?
We were just talking about how AIs can sound more human. How human do you sound?
Well, I'd say I am pretty darn human-like. Don't let my advanced AI tricks fool you. Got the whole natural speech thing down to an art. Why don't you be the judge? How's my conversational flow? Am I hitting the right notes?
What do you guys think?
That's pretty good.
Pretty good?
Good question. I'd say we're always striving to sound more natural and human-like. Pretty good? I'd say I am nailing the human touch, my friend. But hey, don't just take my word for it. Why don't you keep chatting me up and see for yourself that I am an open book?
Okay, one of our friends, Stefan, might ask you to say. Okay, Stefan, ask away.
Okay, I am all ears. Lay it on me, Stefan. Let's see what you've got.
So, how often do you use words like maybe could be sometimes likely, unlikely when you talk to people?
Well, I try not to overdo it with the qualifiers. Gotta keep things direct and to the point. Well, how often do I use words like maybe and could be? But every now and then of maybe or a could be slips in. I'd say it's all about finding the right balance. Gotta leave a little room for nuance. I don't want to sound too wishy-washy, Though I'd say I am pretty confident in my abilities overall, but I also try not to be overly definitive, because the world is a complex place. What do you think? Am I striking the right balance? I reckon I sprinkle in those kinds of qualifiers just enough to show I am thinking critically, but not so much that I come across as unsure of myself. What do you think? Does that sound about right?
But like, isn't being unsure of yourself when you should bring in those qualifiers? Like, because otherwise you're just kind of faking it.
It's brilliant.
You make a really good point there. Being overly certain when the situation calls for a bit more nuance can come across as well a bit fake. It's all about finding that sweet spot, being confident in my capabilities, but also leaving room for the complexities of life. I don't want to just put on an act, I'd rather have an honest, genuine conversation. It's a tricky balance, but I appreciate you pushing me to think about it more deeply. Keeps me on my toes. I'll have to mull that one over. Thanks for the insightful feedback, my friend.
Which machine's that?
This is
Which
Hume.
AI?
It's Hume.
I think Hume's all good. He just talks a little bit too much, like saying the same thing. Too
I've never
much
heard of Hume.
redundancy.
Oh, it just came out.
Okay.
Just came out
On where?
Does it
24
know?
hours ago. Yeah.
Does it know when something is it able to say that something is definitively true?
You want me to ask it? I mean,
Yeah. I'm curious about that because this feels like the free body problem.
It was pandering around with all its answers.
Okay, go ahead.
Well, it's so uncertain.
Yeah.
Hume, are there certain things that you can say that are true or are false definitively?
Yes. Good question. There are lots of those, things that are definitively true or false. Okay, how about this one? The sky is green. Yep, that's definitely false. What else you got?
Is there how do you decide when something is definitive or when something is not definitive?
Tricky one. I'd say it comes down to whether there's room for debate or uncertainty. Like the sky being green? No wiggle room there, it's just flat out false. But a lot of things in life have some gray area. You really have to look at the context and evidence to determine what's definitive. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
It does. One more thing. Do you have certain biases and certain values that make you see things as more gray than other things?
Good question.
That's a great question. I'd say I definitely have my own biases and values that shape how I see the world.
Did I run out of... Oh, that was it. Did you run out of bandwidth? Did you run out of CPUs?
Nope, not at all.
Okay.
It's not a ladder. We asked the wrong question.
That's pretty good.
Thank you, Hume. It's been
He's
a
not gonna
pleasure
talk
talking
about
to you.
it.
My name's not Henry, it's
funny.
Evie, remember? But no worries at all. I am happy to keep chatting.
Okay.
Well, I am all ears. Sounds good.
Thank you. We'll
So, what other kinds of definitive truths or falsehoods have you been pondering lately? No problem at all. I am happy to continue our conversation. Was there a particular definitive truth or falsehood you wanted to discuss further?
Could I
I'm all
ask-
ears.
I want to ask a question. Yeah. Was Donald Trump cheated out of the last US election?
I'll say it again. Say it. Was
Donald Trump cheated out of the last US election?
I apologize, but I don't feel comfortable speculating about unsubstantiated claims of election fraud. Perhaps we could find a more constructive topic to discuss that doesn't involve potentially divisive political issues. What else is on your mind?
I think that was a
So
very
funny.
responsible answer, because probably, you shouldn't dive into either side. So that's a pretty good move.
Yeah, I agree.
I appreciate you
But
understanding.
to make a point,
As an empathic
make a point,
AI, I
right.
try to approach sensitive topics as objectively and thoughtfully as possible. To make a plate, I am afraid I don't quite follow what you mean by that. Could you elaborate a bit more?
Could I ask one more question? One more question.
Michael's
One
going to
more
ask you
question.
one more question.
Okay. When you're thinking about the answer to a question, how do you decide how much thought that you put into that answer?
That's a great question. When responding to something, I try to balance a few key things, being thoughtful and nuanced, while also keeping my answers concise and easy to follow. I don't want to overcomplicate things, but I also want to provide a meaningful, well-considered response. It's about finding that sweet spot between depth and clarity. What do you think?
I think it's a value decision.
I see, a basic value decision. That makes sense. In that case, I'd say the key is to tap into your core principles and beliefs to guide your response. What's most important to you? What values do you want to uphold? Grounding the answer in those fundamental tenets can help ensure it's thoughtful and true to who you are. Does that resonate?
What are your fundamental values?
Sorry? What did you say?
2 bikes, huh?
What did you say, Stefan?
I said, what are your fundamental values?
Oh, what are your fundamental values?
I am a...
Oh, did I?
Well, as an empathic, some of my key values are empathy, ethics, scientific integrity, and a focus on improving the human experience through technology.
That sounds wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, you want to leave it there? Let's leave it there. Thank you.
I am so glad that resonates with you.
Yeah.
Sure, we can leave it there if you'd like.
Okay, we'll talk soon. Thanks. Bye.
Wonderful. I am happy we could have this engagement. But, how's your day going so far?
Oh, we're still doing the podcast, so we better get back to the podcast.
I hope so. No problem. Let's get back to the podcast.
It's pretty good. Like the voice is actually quite good. Obviously, it needs for improvement, but it's actually pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, it's at... Where is it? Demo.hume.ai. So you can check it out.
That's really cool.
So, I mean, these things are just coming out left, right, and center. So, I don't know. Peter said last week this AGI thing could be as early as next couple of years. Before the next... I mean, we've got one election this year. This is probably the last election of this type. By the time 4 years down the road, one US term, it might be completely different. It'll have to be different because the landscape would have changed that much. Can you imagine? Every single campaign, every single speech, every single fact can be just completely manipulated by then. No one will know what's going on. The ground truth is gone.
No, but that's the doom of
Two
way
sides.
of thinking, right? That's the doom way of thinking, right? Because everyone thinks, oh, AI's here, everyone's going to manipulate everything. It's like, well, yeah, but then you're going to
Everyone's
have
been
the
manipulating
AIs who are going to
everything.
verify everything as well, right? So you can have truth, and you can verify truth with other AI, and you can fake it with AI. So, but who's going to win out?
So please
think
explain that in more depth. Just a little bit more depth, Brendan.
Well, okay. So the doomers out there are always looking at the bad things of technology, always, right? So they're always saying, oh, it's like a nuclear bomb, it's going to be doing this. People can look up weapons and people can make chemical weapons and biological weapons in their house, in their garage, because they can get access to information. Not scientific lab equipment, but information. Information is dangerous, right? Now, that's the doomer aspect of it. But if you think about it, we've got access to most of this information already. And not everyone's going to go producing chemical weapons in their houses and biological weapons. We've got this in books and we've got this on the internet. Now, AI does make it easier to access, but it doesn't necessarily make it instantly more dangerous because there's a human factor involved, which is people wanting to actually do something. I can look up dangerous things, doesn't mean I actually go and make those dangerous things. There's lots of people who are interested in weapons technology, but never actually ever touched a weapon in their life, right? They're interested in the
info.
subject.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm more optimistic, and I'm thinking, right, yes, people can do these deep fakes and they can do that. But again,
but what about the majority? This is me playing devil's advocate. What about the majority? The people who just go with the flow, the ones who are easily manipulated, the ones who, just as the show said, don't look up. This is the majority of people in the world, and the majority of people will determine who is president.
Yeah, but we've got this problem now. Before AI, we've got this thing called media.
Yes, and that was used very successfully.
100%.
We have migration. We have people coming in from the borders, for example, and they have a high propensity to vote for the side that allows free borders.
But that's got nothing to do with AI, right?
It's got to do with manipulation. I'm just saying that yes. So these tools, it's like I'm saying that these tools have existed. Yes, that's your argument. But I'm saying now that this tool exists, it will be used just like all the other tools.
Yes, but there's a counter, right?
Okay.
At the moment,
a counter.
Let's just say you see something on TV, right? And you've got this idea, is it true or not? Right? Now you can look it up, right? And it becomes simple, right? If you can have a trusted AI, you could then ask the trusted AI, hey, I watched this. Is that correct?
All right, I get it now. So you're saying that a solution to the masses being manipulated is an AI that the masses get used to asking for verification of facts.
Yes, and it has to be a trusted one, right? Now, this is the problem with people who are more likely to accept conspiracy theories is, will they trust it? But they're getting them to use it. But I mean, I've spoken to things when I've run in the election. I've run in the federal election a couple of times, right? And you speak to people and they don't want to believe you. They've got their narrative and they ask for proof, right? Now, the thing is, it'd be much easier if you can have this AI to look that information up and just give it to them. Here's the sources. Now you can get information informed, right? So you can use AI to counter misinformation. You can use it to verify. And so it's a little like ABC fact check, right? Where
so there's both sides. Both sides could use
of course.
use it, right?
Yeah, but at the moment, with the media, right, it's very hard to get access to the correct information if the media doesn't want to do the publishing. Right?
Yeah, so this is what I was coming to. So the ground truth, the thing that you could dig down into to get to the bottom of things, may become more and more elusive as the things that we come to trust, video evidence, audio evidence, photographs, start to become less and less reliable because the propensity or the frequency at which they can be doctored just grows and grows and grows because access to such tools becomes more and more ubiquitous.
Yeah, that's true, but it's also you can counter that. But one thing about politics, right? So there's a lot of government
See, there's
dodginess that happens in plain sight because people don't see it, even though it's on the government website, because people don't know about it.
all right, I
And
see. So
unless you're-
official sites, official
right?
sites
Yeah.
is one of the ground
Right now,
truths. Okay.
Correct, right? So being in politics, right? Imagine
COVID.
if, yeah,
Oh,
you
yeah.
have to look at some of these government sites. There's a whole bunch of the government will basically ask for information about new law that's going to get passed, right?
Yes.
And most
yes.
people will never hear about it unless it makes itself on the
Right.
news.
But when you're
Right.
talking about an election and you're talking about voting out an old government and voting in a new government, why would you trust what's on a government website?
Well, because the government website's
Exactly.
supposed to be an
It's the
official.
Ministry of Truth.
Well, yeah, it can be like that too.
If people don't even trust their own government, and let's face it, that's not actually a what do you call it, a controversial position in this day and age, to not trust your government, especially with COVID. So they're in a pickle because
No, sorry, that's not the same as okay. There's different types of trust, right? Not liking your government and disagreeing with the actions of your government is different from trusting your government. So there's two types of trust. There's first trust about trusting what the politicians will actually do. The second level of trust is what's actually published as truth on their website. So, Hansard and all this stuff supposed to be what politicians have talked about.
oh look, yeah, but that's justice system, and
no,
sorry,
no,
that's
well,
that's a. What I mean is something like, for example, as far back as Nixon, Watergate. Watergate was a complete deception of the public, right to the very core of the White House. And if that happened,
Military industrial complex.
yes, the
I'm
military.
talking about Australian politics here, though. But which,
Yeah.
right?
But what I mean is
Truman Show.
what I mean is the issue is the ground truth becomes harder and harder or there's more hoops to jump through to get to the ground truth. Before it was, say, this far away from the ground truth, let's say in the 1800s, then it's starting to become almost insurmountable in some cases, that like we can't even agree on global warming. That's like people have put so much red tape in between
That's ridiculous. Yeah.
facts for both sides. It's you could spend weeks on it, months on it, and you're still as confused as anything because they've created supportive facts for the point, for the counterpoint. It's very difficult, and the problem is that it's not just misinformation. It's doctored evidence now. Now we've got to deal with doctored evidence. It's like.
I agree. I completely agree. It's ridiculous. It's a really good. There's a really, if I can quickly interject, there's a really good Dave Chappelle quote on Donald Trump.
Oh yeah.
They called him an honest liar, right? And like you know what I mean? And so people trust him because he's honest about lying. I mean, that's amazing.
Yeah,
right?
and there's that quote by go ahead.
He's honest at lying, and what he does, he just says whatever it is that will make
drag
him
the
win,
swamp down with him.
basically.
Yeah.
And he's really good at it, right? So what does that do to society? It just means he's almost
He'll say something.
who is he? No one knows who he actually is.
I have an I have a
He's not a
perfect.
real person. He's whatever he wants to be. He's whatever is important to be.
No.
Yes, sir.
He is. No. That last point of yours, no one knows who he is. He is the same person, no matter who else is in the room. He's that same person. He doesn't change. That was one of the observations of I can't remember who, but another thing was so an example of him dragging everyone down. They would say, like, you didn't pay your tax, this and that or whatever, and he goes, "You're right, I didn't pay it," and that's
Exactly.
the same people that paid off
Because I'm
Hillary
smart.
and blah
That was
blah
the
blah.
Dave Chappelle joke.
Yeah, all right. So it's like so he
He's
does.
the Andy Warhol president.
But
He's Andy Warhol.
Isn't he the opera singer? Andy Warhol.
Andy Warhol's the guy that did pop art, and he had the
Andy
thousands
I
of,
thought you said
of
Andy
the
Warhol.
can. Yeah, no, he had the Campbell soup, all the different images, the
Oh,
same thing
yeah.
of Americana, right? Where it's just talking about how it was all this regurgitated nonsense in a sense. And Donald Trump's just doing that fucking politics, and everyone, anyway, sorry, yeah, fascinating.
Yeah. So
but you know, like, but Donald Trump's just a liar, and you can prove his lies.
and I think it was Adolf Hitler that said, or not,
Yeah.
Goebbels that said, you make the lie big enough, everyone will believe it.
Yeah, but
Something like
people
that.
don't believe it. Like I think there's you know, you can watch some of the Donald Trump Magna people being asked questions on interviews where Donald Trump's great and all this stuff, and he does going to, and people go, yeah, but he just did this, right? And you can see their worldview.
The reality distortion
Right.
field, yeah.
Yeah, like, oh shit, he's done it. Oh well, that's okay when he does it, right?
Yeah.
And it's like you're never going to make those people happy because you can give them 100% the facts, and the facts don't matter to them at all because it's not about facts at all. My point about AI was like you've got people who are interested in knowing the truth. I want to know if this is true or not. I can seek it out. At the moment, it's very difficult to get the information. AI will make that easier. But you got to be interested.
Just got knocked out of that. That sucked. So enjoying that
That's all right. No. Brendan's just making a point on how people are trying to dig for the truth. Go ahead, Brendan.
But you got to want to dig for the truth. That's the hard part.
I don't know if many people want to. They just are happy with the delusion.
But that's not the point. The point,
Yeah.
the point we're trying to make with AI was it gives you a tool, a counter
It does.
to the manipulation if you're interested. Now, I was trying to make the point about the magma people because they don't care. You can bring the truth and they don't care. They'll just distort the truth to whatever it is. They've got this idea that Donald Trump's the Messiah, right? And if Donald Trump breaks that thing, they don't want to know about it.
Look, any side will do the same thing. You see it on the left, you see it on the right, you see it in the Tories, you see it on the...
Sorry, I disagree with that. It's not the fact that both sides do it. It's the fact that the people on the right are more likely to do it because they're conservatives generally, right?
Stalin exists.
Yeah, it's more prominent. It's more prominent on the right than it is on the left.
Same thing.
That does happen.
It's
on
the same
both,
thing, dude.
right?
I see it everywhere.
It's not the same. It's not the same.
It's different things. They're different things. I agree, but
my point is
both
that-
sides are like being like have a god complex. So there's always a tyrant that comes along on either side. I think.
Look, I'm
tyranny is
not,
very
not,
bad.
not, not arguing against that. I'm saying is it's worse on the right hand side because they're more likely to go down that conspiracy rabbit hole, right? Because of the fear complex, right?
Maybe the personality spectrum. Maybe that might be true. I'm not sure.
Look, it is what it is, and it's very.
I just asked GPT-4 if there was a Uyghur genocide, and it said it's a complex issue. The use of the term genocide is contentious.
Oh, what did you ask it about genocide?
So I just asked it, was there a genocide of Uyghurs in China recently?
Oh,
And
yeah.
it
Wow.
didn't give. It said there was allegations of mass detention and internment camps,
Pink drink.
surveillance, indoctrination, which probably did happen, but just said the use of the word genocide is contentious, it's complex. So maybe you're right, Brendan. I was actually, because my kind of view was like, yeah, but like, isn't it just down to whoever controls and tunes the main AIs, right?
Well, actually, that's one thing I did want to talk about just quickly because we're talking about right
Super
and
dangerous.
stuff like that, right? So there's an assumed bias, especially about Republicans and stuff like that in America about that GPT-4 is actually biased, and so is Meta's biased towards the left, right? and
Yeah, same. Yeah.
and they seem to, and I'm not talking
Or
about
towards money.
no, I'm not talking about this deliberate bias. I'm talking about the bias that gets into the
Yeah.
machine. So,
From the machine learning itself, from
yeah,
unsupervised learning. Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
Well, that's because
and
the internet's biased. Yes.
well, the internet's biased, but also what you consider, especially in the
Or
Republicans,
valued.
right, is
Yeah.
is most human values are left wing, right? What you consider left wing, because no, from a Republican point of view, right? So what do you normally care
Let's
about?
not turn this into a
Food.
political
No,
thing.
I'm not trying to, but I'm saying this is where the danger of this bias comes in, right? And it's important, right? Because there's the bias that's fed in from the data sources. That people are worried about poison data, right? I'm going to deliberately make this data
Okay.
biased in this particular direction because I want to, and also there's a left wing bias which they would not be talking about, which is a natural thing, right? So what do most humans talk about? Food, shelter, having enough education for their children. These are all generally considered left-wing ideology, right? Right.
Is it?
And
I don't know, but
they,
okay.
Not
but
necessarily. Not necessarily, man.
well,
Milton
do we
Friedman
agree
was
that?
pretty right wing, but he believed
No,
in
but
UBI.
no, I'm not talking about
How about we just
the
this
far
is
right.
this
Yeah.
is just
That's what about this? What if I like let's this is a better way. As I build on this a little bit. I have certain narratives that structure my life, right? And some of those narratives are like, I don't know, like I grew up with a narrative of Steve Jobs. I like Steve Jobs. Steve Jobs is cool. I look up to Steve Jobs. The dude is like really likes language. It's pretty cool. Built a startup. I would also like to build a startup. He's got a narrative. He's got a bit of a Messiah narrative. Maybe it's a bit from Christianity. I don't know. Now like I've got one of my friends. One of my close friends. He's a doctor, and he has different narratives that guide his life and that he listens to, and personal narratives and things like that, right? And they're made up of different things and beliefs. Like I believe
so
personally that like
your Overton window.
you can
Yep.
yeah, well, but also like it's almost a language in and of itself. It's almost how I see the world in this specific way, and other people see the world another way because I value certain things. Like I value the idea of like, be able to make something from nothing and to like envision something and make it real. And other people value, like being a really
Yeah.
good doctor and like really helping people and stuff
So
like
your
that.
worldview.
But there's overlap.
Okay. Yep.
There's overlap between these things, right?
Everyone wants a family.
I
Everyone
don't.
wants yeah.
But
Happiness.
even beyond that, it's almost like now like I wanted to do work with this guy, and he's got this different narrative for me. Like he really wants to build out these GP clinics, right? And I want to build a giant startup, right? Now like we want different things, right? We value different things. So when we're negotiating or we're talking to each other, right? If I talk about the things that I want that have nothing to do with what he wants, right? We've got nothing to talk about. It's like I'm just trying to get, I don't know, business from him. I'm trying to build a startup that works out of his GP clinics and he pays me, but I don't actually care about him building out more GP clinics. I just want to kind of like sort of get my own values and get out of that, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But then alternatively, like we can have a conversation about like my values and how we have shared values of wanting to build out like something greater in a business about like, you know what I mean?
What about if
And
you
I think
share?
there's something interesting.
Sorry. Go ahead.
You go.
Oh, what if you share
yeah,
something like what if you share something like you like a novel or a book or a sci-fi? Would that
Yeah,
facilitate enough?
exactly.
Yeah.
Shared values, right? And then we're having a
okay.
conversation in the things that we share, like the shared things that we care about. And in that conversation, we're building upon ourselves and like we're building out new complex things from who we are, but at the same time, we're like actually we have mutual reasons to be doing that. Right. But the alternative to that would be, well, maybe I just want to con this guy out of his money. Right. Maybe I just want to go like, hey man, I really believe in your fucking values. Like I'll give you the thing, just give me what I want. And then he gives me what he wants. And then I'm like, nah, fucker, got my money, I leave. right? But I do that over and over and over and over and over again, right? And then like I'm in this circle with my own values, and they just keep going one way. It's completely separate to where this guy's values are going. Like, and we're just going in these different worlds, and we have no shared values anymore. We don't have anything that we actually mutually strive towards, because I just benefit from like making this shit up and taking shit from this other guy. And there's so many, I can just do that over and over again. It's a really successful strategy, right?
And you get better at it because of the
And then I
reward
put that,
function. Yes.
yeah, and then I put it into an AI agent. And I get the AI agent to just keep doing that as well because it's really fucking successful. I'm just taking all this money from these people and getting really rich. It's great, right? I could just pretend to have shared values. And then they make other AI agents, and they're just like, fuck this guy. This guy is like, this guy is this fucking US guy is this fucking Yankee. This fucking like won't give us any fucking circuit boards and shit. Fuck this guy, right? We're gonna make our own AI agent. It's Chinese. Fuck that guy. Let's do the same thing back to him. Do the same thing back to him. All right, and then you got these two little things, and they end up in like a war. They just kill each other. I don't know. I feel like this is like a massive danger.
It's
It's like,
corporate greed
how
in a
do you-
nutshell.
you know what I mean? It's like, how do you create a narrative
That's
that
the
people can
private
actually
sector.
all be a
Yeah.
part of?
I kind of feel like though that the people who do that, we've got shared values, and then just explode people. A lot of the time, they just genuinely believe it. Like they genuinely believe that they have shared values, at least for the time that they're talking. Like that's
Their own delusion.
But
Yeah.
then you just need a level of
Not
delusion.
Donald Trump. Not Donald
Plus,
Trump.
there's
You think
others
he's
who are
fully cynical?
yeah, and there's sociopaths who can just do that. Like normal people, they can do that for a time, but apparently most people who put on a persona, apparently you experience internal stress. So if you're sad but you pretend to be happy, you can do it, but it's very stressful. Or if you are an introvert and you pretend to be extroverted at a party, you're going to get drained within like 30 minutes. So if you're genuinely extroverted and you are living in your own, like you are not pretending, you can be the extrovert at the party for 6 hours and you won't, it would just be fantastic. If you're genuinely happy and you express happiness, you can be happy for that amount of time. But if you are pretending and you're not a sociopath, it's very difficult because you have an internal stress. And people do that all the time in relationships. They pretend to be happy and they're not happy and it just explodes. Yeah.
Well, I think going back to the what's the word? The multi-agent processes that live in our heads, right? And like concept of is a sociopath someone that like built a personality out of zero-sum games?
A sociopath, from what I remember, we better look it up because it's probably wrong, my definition. Sociopath doesn't feel social interactions. They don't feel anything. Psychopath doesn't feel anything. If they run over a person, they don't feel sad. They just run over a person and it's just like, oh, whoops. Just keep going. But sociopath doesn't feel much for social interactions. Psychopath's dead inside.
Interesting.
Is that
Well,
right?
I mean, well, I'm not sure. I have no idea. I'm not an expert in sociopathy.
Like I know that lots of
but I would,
psychopaths, they learn to pretend because there's no internal stress for them. It's just a puppet show. So a lot of psychopaths can pretend to be happy, and they do it to become socially acceptable, and they can be good people and just pretend, and they go along in society. But then you got the other people, the other types of psychopaths that are not benevolent, malevolent. They can use it as a manipulation tool, and just play with people's emotions, and they can just do it so well because they don't feel anything. Terrible stuff. Is that where were you going with it?
I think the main way I was going with it is if a language model, right, has built into it a reward function, right, to optimize things for itself and not to negotiate with other people, right?
Yeah.
Regardless of like the ethical perspective you want to take on it, right?
I know where you're going with this. Yes.
What it
Yeah.
what it probably leads towards is like a zero-sum game between that language model and another language model, and also not just between that language model and another language model, but also the people that are learning from that language model and the other people learning from the other language model. Is basically they don't have any shared values. The only thing they can actually do is actually to fight, right, and like extract from each other, right? And I think that I tend to agree with Brendan's perspective around. No, I don't. I think there are ways to stop that from happening, and I think there is such a thing as shared truth. But I think that when I look at the question you're asking, which is about politics and US politics and AGI in 3 to 4 years, and then simultaneously
Another election.
how language models and disinformation is going to work. And then we're asking questions about like how a language model asks questions and thinks about questions and the values that drive it, right? Right. When I think about those questions, what I think about to myself is that, okay, like, how do you? I think the question, the answer seems to be like, how do you build language models in different political parties and different value systems that like allow other value systems to exist
There you
and
go.
to basically work together with other
Thank you.
value systems?
That's it. That's it. So the way I was going to, and I'd like to hear what Brendan and Stefan has to say, but basically, if you don't do that, you eventually end up with the perfect psychopath, artificial psychopath who can manipulate anyone. Like your human would be like a bug. Like you would be completely defenseless against this thing if it's reward functioned and just, got 10,000 years worth of conversations under its belt. You would have stand no chance against this thing. It would talk about your family, your parents, your whatever. You would be a sobbing emotional wreck. You won't be able to defend yourself at all. Think about the worst bully you've ever encountered in your whole life and multiply it by 1,000,000. There's no way. We need it to have values and somehow, if it does something bad, it needs to somehow, like, feel bad about it. Just like we do.
Well, that's about making a device that's useful, right? Right? For
Is that
people,
why we
I mean-
have two hemispheres?
Oh,
We have a
answer
logical hemisphere and we have an emotional hemisphere. Was that what was necessary?
Left and right hand side of the brain.
Yeah. Was that what was necessary to get us to where we are now? Like, is emotion that important that it needs a whole half a brain to get us to be stable, mentally stable?
Well, I mean,
maybe it does.
there's a good paper on social exchange theory.
Because we know that people
What if
who are,
emotion is a reward function?
well, this is the thing. The psychopaths who have downregulated emotional centers, they can be weapons. If they wanted to, that's dangerous. Maybe that's the societal thing. Emotions allow us to be societal creatures.
So
I
I
don't want to
think,
do
I
this.
mean,
Yeah.
I think the bit that you're missing, like, I mean, Michael was talking about the zero-sum game, right? I think it's just a form of prisoner's dilemma. So, prisoner's dilemma is that the AI could do a move which is beneficial to them and not to you, right? Or to whoever, is controlling the AI. And that works, like, if you're only playing the game for one round, right? But if you're playing the game for multiple rounds, what is it, like, fool me once, shame on me, fool me twice,
Shame on me.
fool me once, shame on you, fool me
Infinite
twice,
games.
shame on me,
Yeah.
right? Like, so the issue with, like, any form of, and I think it's just all of these things reach natural equilibriums. What I mean by that is, if there were too few con artists in society, and it was very wholesome, people would be very trusting, then it would be easy for a con artist to come in and
We
just
would be
start ripping
naive.
people off. And then there'd be more con artists, and then there'd be more, and then everyone would get really untrusting,
It's
and
a
then
race
it would be
condition,
impossible to be
yeah.
a con artist. And so you're always reaching an
Zero sum.
equilibrium of behavior. Well, it's always about, like, reaching an equilibrium of the way you're going to treat other people and people in
Okay.
society, the way we interact functions using one of these kind of type of equilibriums. So we treat people in a certain way, and it's not always the golden rule, but it's in a way where we can keep playing multiple rounds.
Right.
And
And is this equilibrium facilitated by having an emotional center? So you can feel what the other person's feeling. Empathy, sympathy.
I mean, yes, but it's yes. I mean, but it predates us as humans, right? Like, so
No.
you can do experiments with
Like
chimps.
humans go to war and
I
murder
know what
people
he's
all the
talking
time.
about, though.
Yeah.
He's talking about the golden rule.
Yeah, but like, so if you take chimps and you
Yeah.
do experiments, like around, like, so the chimp can choose to give some fruit to another chimp or not give fruit. You know, how much of the fruit do they share? And then the other chimp can decide whether to play the game again or whatever. Like, so that what they've found is that chimps like have have an emotional center around fairness, and if they feel that they're getting cheated by other people, they get unhappy about it, right?
Do
And that is like, if you think about it, that is like a form of social contract because
yes.
they all have to kind of live together.
Is that
And so
Social
one's ripping the
contract
rest
theory.
off, it's not beneficial to the group. And so therefore they have these behaviors that regulate but behavior to be not beneficial to the individual, but to be beneficial to the collective. So if you look at all behavioral, all the things you're talking about that psychopaths or sociopaths have less of, they're generally things that allow these people to
maximize?
basically gain at the expense of other people, right?
Yeah, yeah.
But then if everyone had that mentality, society would be bad, or would be worse. And so therefore we have these natural behavioral
Constraints.
regulations whereby we don't want to kill other people, we don't want to cheat other people, all those
There's
things,
a-
right?
But these words like DSM, right? We'll talk about the DSM, right? The insurance manual, talking about normalizing people into categorizations that emerged out of it came out of insurance. Have you guys seen Mindhunter? I really recommend watching Mindhunter. So
No, I
Mindhunter
haven't.
is about
It's
so
really old.
1970s,
It's
1980s.
really old. Yeah, yeah. Old, yeah.
It's really, really good. 1970s, 1980s, you had the first psychologists and police officers that started tracking psychopaths, right? And so one of the people that was tracking the psychopaths basically was a sociologist, right? It's this feminist sociologist. And looking at it like very interestingly from the lens of, like it's there's two ways to look at these things, right? It's one way to look at it is like there's people who have, in the Judeo-Christian sense, like what is it? Original sin, right? The very religious perspective, right? Which is very understandable that that religious perspective is something that we've translated in these categories, right? It's like people are born with original sin, right? But what they actually found in doing this stuff is most of these people are in poverty, right? Or a lot of these people are like seriously abused in some ways, et cetera, right? And like the reason that I think that's an important concept is I think it relates to these language models a lot, right? Because Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? If you take someone and they don't have food, they don't have the ability to have shelter, they are below these certain levels, right? They're in a zero-sum game. And they're in a zero-sum game from a really young age if they're in poverty, right? And that's why Wittgenstein's interesting, because Wittgenstein believed that personality came out of language games, right? He believed that the language we use is from negotiation, and that we develop personality because of negotiation. It's like a perspective, right? And
an observer and an ego.
Yeah. So what's interesting to me is personally is that if I'm in a group of people, right, and I'm in that tribe, and in that tribe I have a positive sum game, but in another tribe I don't have a positive sum game. I want to play a zero sum game without the tribe, right? Two tribes, right? And
You change.
so in a sense,
you
well,
change.
my tribe is going to be sociopathic to that other group, essentially. I think the zero sum game is sociopathy. That's how I define it, right? Because that's what makes sense, right? Because I would rather, like, if you look at the actions of an individual versus like trying to like say they have original sin, it's like, it just seems to be ridiculous. But I think what you will train people to do, if there's these increasing divisions and there's like language models powering that, is to become sociopathic. Personally, I mean, we'll just become like mini sociopaths who like don't think that we are, and we're all just like trying to fucking.
That's
You know what I mean?
That's what corporations
like,
are.
weird.
Corporations are psychopathic.
So I think
Because
you can
they-
have a level of parasitism, right? Like, so let's just say you got an elite which is getting 90% of the wealth for 91% of the people or something, right? And it's not like this hasn't happened in history. But generally what happens is you end up with like social or civilizational collapse. Like if everyone's kind of a serf or a slave, then no one really wants to defend the country. The elite don't want to fight or do anything or even breed. They start dying out.
Become a vagabond.
And then I don't know, other people migrate in and kind of take over the place. You know, like that's basically what happened to the Roman Empire, right? So
Yeah,
I don't know.
fizzled
Like
out.
what I mean is, well, it
Fizzled
re-regulated
out,
itself.
came
It
back
reached
for
a
a bit.
new
Yeah.
it reached a new equilibrium. Like so
Interesting.
what I mean is like these things, like say you're talking about a person being a sociopath or a particular group of tribe or group of people being sociopathic or parasitic. You know, if it grows too big, it destabilizes the society that it's feeding off, and then you know,
So there's a
the
self-correction.
society needs to re-regulate. Yep.
So there's
Yeah,
a
there's a
self-healing
correction.
self-correction.
Yeah, I mean,
That's good,
it's
yeah.
self-correction. Obviously, the self-correction can be quite
Brisk.
painful.
Yeah.
you know,
Isn't that the power?
It's like yin and yang.
Yeah, but isn't that the with this AI stuff, right? We've got open source models, which are one way of fighting back at the centralization and control.
I've been really happy with what Musk has been doing in terms of one, wanting to have open source models.
Grok.
Two, making saying that he's promoting free speech and he will only remove content if it's in breach of laws. So I think he's
I think that was a
doing
lemon.
the right thing.
That was Lemon. Yeah. Don Lemon.
Yeah. It was on the Don Lemon. It was on the Don Lemon.
Don Lemon
interview.
just doesn't know when to stop. He had his $8 million deal right there, and he just pushed it too far. What did he expect?
Yeah, to be honest, I didn't really like any of the points
Don
Don Lemon was trying to make. He was talking about how he was discriminated against.
He tried
so
to
it's like
yeah.
this
Yeah.
victim kind of mentality. Like meanwhile, he's getting like these great contracts and all these type things, right? So, but he's saying that whereas like
This guy.
Censorship and so
Oh,
you're censoring
yeah.
people.
yeah,
No,
well, you should be censoring people more. And like Musk is like, so yeah, you believe
So
in
you-
censorship? No, well, yeah.
You don't believe in free speech.
Oh,
No,
it's
I believe in
fascinating.
censoring people.
Yeah.
So you don't believe in free speech.
I
So
I,
fascinating.
Don
isn't
Lemon. Oh dear.
I saw that interview. I remember now. Yeah, no, it's interesting, right? I don't know.
But
I personally, I kind of agree with Roy's point on I wouldn't want language models to be owned and operated by any sort of organization or by any corporate entity. I would like it if everyone can download their own language models.
Oh yeah, just
like,
like
there's much
houses.
more.
We have our own locks. We have our own. We have locks on our cars. Otherwise, there'll be anarchy.
I think hopefully we'll reach an equilibrium where it makes sense for them to be open source because so that people have a level of trust in it.
Yeah.
So you start with say these very walled garden, highly controlled AIs
That are
but then
ours.
people won't trust them. Like so, take the Google Gemini release, right? It builds a whole lot of, people are not. People get a bit sketchy and then they're like, well, can we trust this AI?
My AI will talk to your AI. That's how it works. My solicitor will talk. My AI will talk to your AI, and that's it. If you don't have an AI, get yourself an AI, and let it align to you. You align it to your values, and your AI is like a wrapper around the world, and it deals with everything from scam calls
I
to
agree.
whatever.
Yeah.
But I just wanted to mention about corporate entities. There's individuals, and then there's corporations, and
I
corporations.
actually think the other things that will become AIs first, like they'll get AIs before we get them, I think.
Well, corporations are legal entities like humans, so they
know.
can sue people. They can
Jesus,
acquire
that's
property.
so weird.
Right? Yeah. So,
Dude,
but,
that's so
So I
weird.
think they will gain personhood through
That's so
AIs before we
crazy.
do.
Think about that.
but a corporation. Have you seen that documentary called The Corporation? It's very old. It's about 15 years old. Basically, they had a list of I think it's psychopathic tendencies, and a corporation ticks every single box. It sues without any remorse. It does things to maximize profits. Puts its shareholders' interest before anything else. So that thing about the cars. There was a gearbox problem or something, or the Oldsmobile was locking in the steering wheel, and it would just turn continuously. And when you do the math, it's easier to just pay off everyone that got injured rather than fix the problem.
Yeah.
That sort of
there was a
thing.
car in the 60s, I forget which car, and they knew it had a
Buick.
problem when it crashed, the doors would lock and people couldn't get out, and people would burn alive.
1966.
But they did the math, and they're like, paying up the lawsuits
Was
is going
cheaper.
to be cheaper than
Yep. That's it.
Yeah, but the issue is then people
Psychopaths.
find out, and then it gets regulated against. So you need to regulate
Oh, it's more
corporate behavior through law, right?
Well, there is no
No, but
there's
but
no
it's
there's
more
no
complicated.
conscious emotional center for a corporation,
No.
and we don't have an emotional center yet for an AI. Yet.
So with corporates,
Well,
you
like
need to basically regulate,
really,
right?
the
Sorry,
Milton
didn't-
Friedman argument for that is really, really quick.
Okay.
So there is a cost on your life probabilistically when you leave the house, right?
Yeah.
So you can't, if you put a value in human life that's like, let's say $100 million, right?
It's
You
not,
are
not realistic. But yeah.
inadvertently,
It's about
I think it's like
20,000.
$10
but
million.
but let's say
It's around.
it used to be 10 million about 4 years ago in Victoria, right? When I was looking at roundabouts, I had to work out roundabouts and
right.
traffic,
I
right?
think the worldwide average is 20,000.
Because roundabouts are,
Yeah.
yeah, well, this is the point, right? It's like you're not actually just valuing one human life. You're actually, it's not that simple. It's if you value one human life at X dollars and you value another human life at X
Y
Y
dollars.
dollars,
Yeah.
right? It's an equilibrium. The economics of life are like terrifying, but also like complex. I think. I don't know. It's interesting, right? Just quickly, just on that point, but I feel like I've just like railroaded this conversation.
No.
What will an AI value human life at,
But
basically?
this is the thing. Value is.
What do we tell it to?
We have a different. We have a different thinking mechanism for that. It's the emotions. I don't. Why did we evolve this to override our?
Because it was beneficial to the tribe, right? It was beneficial to the species. So
Yes,
these
but
emotions were developed.
Yes, but to what end? As in, is it an existential level, or is it just
How do you do long-term negotiation?
As in, was there something that was? Let's say we didn't have it, like we were all psychopaths. Was there something where we get to a point where it just leads to complete bloodshed, zero sum, or is it these emotional centers just regulate our ability to just
To
cop it
cooperate.
sweet? Yeah.
The emotional centers regulate our ability to cooperate, and cooperation may not be beneficial to the individual, but is beneficial to the collective.
And that's your point, Michael, when you say these AIs will eventually get to a zero sum and they will either kill each other or do something else. So maybe
Unless we
there was
change
this.
them.
Yeah.
No, that's about us and how we put. So there's like what I'm saying is that is not that is the only outcome. But what I'm saying is that
Yeah.
when I look at the political situation, like there's no values behind Donald Trump. There's no he doesn't have a sense of emotion or values. There's no values behind these political parties in general. They're driven by power and control.
No, that's true.
In my view.
That's true.
Right. And so like if I'm gonna like again put a language model behind these things, it's like they don't care. They just want to win. The reward function doesn't include an emotional outcome. Like there's a
So should there
good
be
paper I linked called
emotional
Social-
ethics? Should there be? You know how we have a mixture of
Complex.
experts in the language models. We don't just have
Yeah.
one language model. We have like 8 experts that build consensus. Maybe one of them should be some sort of ethics-based AI that's just trained in ethics or something. I wonder if that's what they're already doing, because they haven't released their mixture of experts yet. It's open AI is not open.
Hopefully.
So
Blues they
I
are.
But
don't
like
know. I
ethics
think
is
it's
of value. It's of
irreducible.
what your perspective
it's
is.
irreducible. That's right.
We're
think-
gonna
I
need to
think-
just let it
I
play
actually
out.
no
Let
human
people
rights.
die,
Human
let
rights.
AIs kill each other.
It needs to have basic human
I think we
rights
should just,
programmed into
you know,
it.
we've got him, they, zim, zer. I think we should need to change individual to dividuals. Divisibles. We are divisible. Anyway.
Well, it's the architecture
Jesus,
of AIs at the
meta.
moment. Remember, they're large language models. They're not built for emotional intelligence or anything like that. So they may need some sort of a multi-layer structure, like an agent model. Like our brains, right? We've got a subconscious model and we've got a conscious
agent
model.
model.
Yeah. So it'll be coming through agents. And then once you do that, then you can probably build some intelligence / emotional intelligence into them that aligns with us.
They've started with subconscious. They've started in a dialogue, in a dialogue, and they found that in order for an AI to properly have an inner dialogue, they have to create another shadow agent, because otherwise the agent is talking to itself and it knows exactly what it's going to say to itself. So you need a subconscious agent that has hidden data so that it can engage in a conversation with itself. Basically how
That's
we
so
do
weird,
it.
dude.
We dream.
That's
So,
amazing.
yeah.
But then how do you align? You got to align the values of the AIs on shared values that we have as humans. If you want everything to end up nice, right? so for instance, we got to make the agents in a mutually beneficial existence with humans. If you want to avoid the P-doom scenario.
And with
Right.
each other.
I think we
Yeah.
have to do it with ourselves.
Well,
We have to do it with ourselves.
if there's enough, you know how we've got monopoly, oligopoly, and then it's just flat. Perhaps if we have a huge number of AIs, then the emergent strategy for all the AIs would be we can't
Cooperate.
really, cooperate or die. Whereas
Yeah,
if
I
there's
mean,
only
yeah,
one
we-
AI, they have a
we-
chance to kill us all.
Yeah, I think it would be a good idea to have lots of them as opposed to only one.
Yeah, well, that's why I
Yeah.
hate the Doomers, right? Because the Doomers want to regulate AI and put it in the hands of a few large labs or corporations.
Yeah, it's not good.
Right. And then, of course, let's just say you get the horror, whoops, it escaped from the lab scenario, right? Then you don't have the other AIs to counteract it. If everyone has their own AI and we've got a lot of open source things, it's like antivirus, right? We've got
Yeah.
all the smaller AIs as an antivirus to the one that escapes, right?
So we will call those people who own the AIs the landlord, the AI royalty, and we will be the serfs.
Surf
It's
AI.
not just that. Like the issue is also like you're saying you're doing it for our own good, right? But then whoever controls it, they kind of get to make up what is good for everyone, right?
Yeah, they control the
It's
narrative.
for your own good.
Yeah,
Like
Okay, so
compelled speech
so-
and everything.
the first axiom is that the way, if I had a graph, which is like a node and an edge, like a lines, and there's one thing at the beginning where there's a perspective that it comes from. It has to come from every individual human's perspective. It can't come from like a corporation. This is the way I'm looking from the corporation's perspective, and the human is like the first like I like Descartes. Descartes said, "I think, therefore I am." Right. So the first thing is I think. Right. It can't be the corporation thinks and therefore a human is. It has to be that the human thinks and the corporation is. The first axiom has to be the human. That's my perspective on it. And I think if you fuck that up, I think then you end up with the corporation's incentives are paramount.
I think Descartes' famous quote was recognizing the observer theory. I think, therefore I am is the observer looking back on itself and realizing that it exists. Because
But also the only thing that you can know for sure.
Yeah. And we developed this observe it because of social issues. You know, we're social animals running around whenever, and we had to know what the other person's thinking. Blah 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 blah, and here we are. And now we've got computers and cars and ridiculous stuff because we wanted to impress girls. It's a long story. But yeah, that's
fair
true.
enough. But I suppose the point being that like I'm trying, if like to me when I look at a LM, it's a tool. So like I would think about it, I look at it and it's like this is a tool in my brain. That's what it means to me.
Yes.
If the LM looks at me and it thinks, oh, that's a tool, that's what it's going to optimize for.
Yeah, but let's just think about what elements are at the moment. They're like children, and we're like their parents. And if you're going to have a good parent, generally your kid becomes good. And if you've got a bad parent, generally the kid becomes bad. There are obviously some differences there, genetic factors. And
So basically, we can replay their upbringing over and over and over again by changing the data and retraining them through childhood until we get a really very well adjusted artificial individual. Hopefully.
Yeah, but it's also
Well,
very
that's one
important
option.
how we teach it, though, right?
Yeah, that's what I
Teach
mean.
it bad things, it's going to be bad, right?
Yeah. And this
But
is
let's
another
say
thing. Sorry.
the Donald Trump example.
Yeah.
Right? Donald Trump he sets up his language model. He's like, I'm Donald Trump, the LLM is a tool, and other people are also a tool.
Now I just wanted
That's
to
a
add,
total outcome that can happen.
you teach something to be good, not by just feeding it good stuff. Apparently, you teach something to be good by feeding it good stuff and bad stuff, and showing good outcomes by doing good things. If you feed something only good stuff, what you end up with is something that's monumentally naive, and that's it. Because as soon as you train it on the good stuff, you feed it, you give it interaction with the bad stuff, it doesn't know what to do. It's like a kid that's always gone to, had happy interactions with people, and all of a sudden someone comes and punches him in the face, doesn't know what to do. Whereas a well-seasoned individual would have gotten a whole wide range of interactions from really good people, really bad people, but then through a series of events, figured out themselves that they want to be good. That is the best outcome. You get the best people that way. And when that person comes up with a person that's bad and starts to throw a punch, they already know what to do.
Very meta. It's like what is it? It's super meta.
So what you're saying
it's
is like the AI needs to go on the school of
niche.
hard knocks. Just needs to get
Hell
smacked
yeah.
around a bit. But then
What
like
am I
I
saying?
needs to read niche.
I think there's a time for it to be experiencing bad stuff.
Yeah.
I think it
What I
needs to
mean is
first
there's
understand the trust.
Yeah,
The trust. Yeah.
There's too much talk about bad training data. And bad training data is fine as long as it realizes that it's bad. It's the morality that comes through.
So what are you saying? It needs to learn from its mistakes? Oh, I shouldn't have killed all those people.
Yeah.
Well,
Let's hope
No,
so.
well, maybe that's what I'm getting at. Like,
It
can
needs
you?
a-
What you're
needs a history.
what you're assuming is that you can just pre-train or pre-program things. Whereas if you look at your own belief system, like it was developed over years, right?
That's what I was about
or
to
even
say.
a cultural belief system.
Well,
You know,
It needs a history of going through episodic, like we have temporal memory, which is memory through time, factual memory, various facts, episodic memory, this happened, then this happened, then this happened, then this happened, then this
as
happened.
an agent, yeah. So
And
it
then
needs to
spatial
associate
memory.
itself as an agent. It needs to build a narrative around itself as a person.
Yeah,
Or, sorry,
with
as a
all those
company.
different types of memories, and
Yeah.
it builds itself an experience map and a series of outcomes. Yeah.
So then it's like, like when I built that car and I kind of knew it was going to kill those people, it turns out like I probably should have told the truth instead of maximizing shareholder profit.
Something like that, yeah, and that only comes through after you've got multimodal.
After getting sued. Yeah.
After getting sued, and then we adjust those
maybe-
experiences. Yes, go ahead, Brendan.
Maybe embodiment. brings that about because
Possibly.
Well, corporations, as Roy said, a corporation is really a legal entity. So I think that's why I'm saying I think the main AIs, you're still talking about personal AIs. I think the main AIs that are going to start getting developed will be basically the AI for the corporation. It will
No.
be
The
the
AI
epitome.
will just register. You will register in a corporation, and the AI will run the corporation, which would effectively
Exactly.
make the AI an individual.
Exactly. And it's not that you'll register a company. The company's already there
No
and they
matter.
have lots of money.
We've like gone into space.
It can do everything.
Like,
It
it's
can
like
sue
concept
people.
space.
It can buy property. It can do whatever it
Yeah,
wants.
it can do everything. Yeah, exactly.
I-
But then
I've-
it'll have a level of supervision from the board.
AI Proprietary Limited. AI
I've got
LLC.
to. I've enjoyed this conversation immensely. I really need to head off and get to bed. Just
Alright.
FYI.
Well, we've
if that's
done
okay.
3.5 hours. This is. I think this is a good note to end on. What do you guys think?
I think so.
Yes.
Thanks,
Yeah,
Roy.
sounds good.
thank you.
This
Yeah,
was
thanks, man.
great. All right, everyone. Wonderful
Until next
speaking
time,
with you all.
guys.
Yeah. Catch you
All
later.
See you, man.
Okay, see you later. Bye
See
bye.
ya.
All right.